I was folding laundry and half watching a rerun of Grey's Anatomy when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something in my gut twisted before I even answered. The voice on the other end was urgent, panicked, but professional. A coworker of my husband's. He had collapsed during a meeting and was being rushed to the emergency room. The word surgery came out of her mouth and my body just moved. I don't remember grabbing my keys. I don't remember locking the door behind me. I barely remember the drive to the hospital, just the way my hands trembled on the wheel and how I whispered his name over and over like a prayer I was trying to keep alive. When I got to the ER, everything smelled like antiseptic and stress. Nurses moved like ghosts with purpose. A young woman at the front desk confirmed that yes, he had just arrived. They were prepping him for emergency abdominal surgery. "Can I see him?" I asked, breathless. She nodded toward a curtained room down the hallway. "They're about to take him in." Just for a moment. I pushed through the curtain and there he was, pale, sweating, eyes half closed. A nurse was removing his shirt, prepping IVs. Another stood beside him, saying he had to remove all personal items, wallet, jewelry, and especially his phone. At that, he stirred. His eyes opened wider. "I'll handle it," he said quickly, motioning for his phone from the side tray. "I don't want it getting lost." I didn't think much of it at first. He's always been particular about his stuff. But then he asked no, insisted that he be allowed to go to the adjoining side room for privacy. Just for a second. He said he wanted to text his boss quickly. A nurse hesitated but nodded. I started to follow him, but he held up a hand. "Stay. Just give me 1 second." It wasn't even a full minute. He came back looking tense, clutching his phone like it was a fragile piece of glass. He handed it over, screen off, and placed it into the side pocket of his backpack. "You can give me the phone," I said gently. "I'll keep it safe." But he shook his head. "It's fine. It's off. Just leave it in the bag." Before I could argue, the nurses were already wheeling him away. I stood there for a moment after they disappeared behind swinging doors. My heart was racing, but not just because of the surgery. Something about the way he acted, the urgency, the secrecy felt wrong. Why wouldn't he let me hold his phone? Why turn it off before surgery? Why go alone into a side room to do it? I sat down in the waiting area and pulled the bag onto my lap. I didn't unzip it. Not yet. But suddenly, I couldn't stop thinking about everything I hadn't noticed before. And for the first time that day, I realized something might be even more broken than his body. Hospitals are strange places. Even when they're loud, they feel hollow. Time bends and stretches in cruel ways, especially when someone you love is being cut open just a few walls away. I sat on that hard plastic bench for hours. My hands were clenched in my lap. I kept replaying the moment they wheeled him away, the look on his face, not of fear, but something else. Something tight. Something calculating. Eventually, I reached for his backpack. Just something to do with my hands, I told myself. A distraction. I unzipped the front pocket first. Just keys, a pen, some receipts. Then the main compartment, his wallet, a folded magazine, some gum. No phone. I went through it again. Slower this time. Unzipping every compartment, checking inside his glasses case, under the lining. I even felt along the seams like some kind of amateur detective. Still nothing. My stomach dropped. I stared at the bag, then glanced around the hallway, as if the phone might have fallen out somewhere. But it hadn't. It was gone. I flagged down a nurse. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound casual. "Do you know if personal items are kept somewhere else?" My husband said he left his phone in his bag, but I can't find it. She blinked. "No, patients usually hand it to their family, especially for emergency surgery." "Are you sure he didn't give it to you?" I smiled thinly. "Pretty sure." She offered to check with the surgical intake team, but I already knew the answer. He didn't give it to me. And now I couldn't stop thinking about why. At first, I tried to talk myself down. Maybe it slipped under the gurney. Maybe he panicked and handed it to a nurse. Maybe. But then the memories started clicking together like a sinister puzzle. The night he came home late and said he was helping a coworker with a flat tire but smelled like perfume. Not mine. The sudden weekend business trip to Abuja, even though his company didn't operate there. The way he started sleeping with his phone under his pillow, face down. The text that popped up 2 weeks ago, when I brought him tea in bed, just one word, last night, from a contact saved as Jim. My hands went cold. I stood up, restless. Pacing. Sitting. Standing again. I couldn't concentrate on anything, not the cheap hospital magazines, not the muted TV above the vending machines. That's when I remembered something. When he left for that side room earlier, the one he insisted on going into alone, he came out zipping up his pocket and holding a small metal key in his hand. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Figured it was for the bag's lock or something. But what if it wasn't? What if that key was for one of the hospital's patient lockers? What if he didn't put the phone in his bag at all? My heart thudded against my ribs. I stood up slowly and walked toward the hallway where the lockers were. I had no proof. No reason to snoop, at least not one I could explain to anyone else. But every part of me was screaming that something wasn't right. And now, I wasn't just scared for his health. I was scared of what I might find. I didn't want to involve anyone else. I didn't want to explain why a wife might be digging through her hospitalized husband's things like some paranoid lunatic. But I didn't have a choice. I needed that key. I asked a nurse if the hospital had patient lockers near pre-op. She nodded and pointed me down a hallway I hadn't noticed earlier, one lined with narrow blue lockers, each with a little number plate and keyhole. My stomach flipped. Security met me there after I explained that my husband was rushed in and might have stored his phone somewhere. I expected resistance, maybe a warning about privacy. Instead, they were surprisingly understanding. Patients sometimes panic and store their valuables in lockers without telling us, one of them said as he unlocked locker number 14, the only one with a check-in log under my husband's name. Inside was just his folded hoodie. But my gut clenched the moment I touched it. I slid my hand into the inside pocket, the one he always used for cash or gum wrappers. But this time, it was heavier. The phone. Black. Off. Cold in my hand like it had something to hide. I looked around, no one was watching. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. 23 missed messages. 7 missed calls. I didn't recognize the number, but the name read, David, work. Except David didn't talk like a David. Last night was heaven. I still smell you on me. Your wife has no idea, does she? I hate that she gets to call you hers. My hands went numb. I tapped into the thread. Pictures. Some just faces, others. More. Way more. A few with hotel backgrounds I suddenly recognized. One from our anniversary weekend, the weekend he claimed to be sick while I spent the night crying in the guest room alone. Voice notes. Flirty, breathy, teasing. Female voice. Not a doubt in my mind. Then came the last message, time-stamped from just hours ago, before the collapse, before the ambulance, before the hospital. Can't wait to see you tonight once she's gone. Gone. Me. He thought I'd leave for the evening. Thought he'd be out of the house and into her arms by sundown. I sat down hard on the nearest bench, the phone still open in my palm. My heart wasn't just racing, it was caving in on itself. Like it couldn't handle the weight of what I'd just seen. And then a nurse's voice cut through the hallway like a blade. Mrs. Ade, he's out of surgery. He's stable. You can see him now. I looked up. And in that moment, with my husband barely surviving the knife, I didn't know which pain cut deeper. The one he was healing from. Or the one he had inflicted. I stood slowly, slipped the phone into my bag, and followed the nurse. Because now I had a choice to make. Do I confront him while he's weak, doped up, and vulnerable? Or do I wait? Wait until he thinks the worst is behind him. So I can show him what betrayal really feels like. The beeping machines were the first to stir before he did. Steady. Measured. Alive. I sat beside him, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest under the pale blue hospital blanket. His face looked smaller now. Softer. Nothing like the man I thought I knew, or maybe too much like him. Maybe this was always who he was beneath everything. His eyelids fluttered, and then he opened them slowly, blinking into the fluorescent light above. I leaned forward. Hey, I said gently, like I hadn't found hell buried in his jacket pocket just a few hours earlier. You're okay. He groaned softly, voice raspy. What happened? You collapsed at work. Emergency surgery. The doctor said it was close. You were lucky. He tried to move, winced, then let out a dry chuckle. You stayed? Of course. He looked at me like he didn't deserve it. He was right. There was a pause. An awkward one. I waited for him to ask about the phone. He didn't. Instead, he reached for my hand. Thank you for being here, he whispered. I was scared. All I could think about was you. I nodded. Bit the inside of my cheek. Do you need anything? I asked, pretending again. He hesitated. My phone. Is it at home? There it was. I turned to him slowly. Is that where you left it? He blinked, searching my face. Yeah. I think so. I don't remember. Everything happened so fast. I reached into my bag and pulled it out. His phone. Screen still warm from earlier. I found it, I said quietly. In the locker. His eyes dropped to the device, and the color in his face drained just a little. Oh. I unlocked it. Tapped open the thread with David, work. I didn't even need to read them aloud. Just tilted the screen gently toward him. He stared. Then blinked rapidly. I was going to end it, he whispered. I swear. I just didn't know how. She meant nothing. I didn't speak. He kept going, like a man trying to plug holes in a sinking ship with paper towels. It was a mistake. I was weak. It just started with texting. I didn't think it would go this far, and then things got messy. I never stopped loving you. I felt invisible, and I didn't know how to talk to you anymore, and... You had her in our bed, I said flatly. He flinched like I'd slapped him. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Repeatedly. He reached for my hand again, desperation spilling into his voice now. Please. Please don't leave me. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll block her. I'll change jobs. I'll do anything. Just... Don't give up on me. I stood. He looked up at me like a drowning man. Please. But I didn't answer. I walked out of the room with the weight of everything I knew pressing down on me and no clear idea what I was going to do next. The house didn't feel like home when I walked in. It felt unfamiliar. Like someone had come in while I was gone and rearranged the air. I stood in the entryway for a long time, key still in hand, listening to the silence that now felt suspicious. The couch, the photos on the wall, the half-used candle by the TV, everything looked the same. But nothing felt the same. This was the place we built. Where we argued over paint colors, where we laughed through takeout nights and cried over negative pregnancy tests. This was the place I thought I was safe. Where love was supposed to live. And now it felt haunted. Not by ghosts, but by lies. I sat on the edge of the bed we once shared, the bed I now couldn't even look at, and opened my laptop. Reddit was just there. Familiar. Quiet. A place to scream without making a sound. I typed without thinking. Poured it all out like poison from a wound. My husband collapsed and had emergency surgery. But before they took him in, he hid his phone. I found it. What I saw broke me. I didn't include names. I didn't even mention the affair in the title. I let the body of the post unravel everything. The hospital. The locker. The fake name. The texts. The betrayal. I wrote it all. And then I hit post. The comments poured in like floodgates snapping open. Run. This isn't just cheating, it's a calculated betrayal. He hid the phone. That tells you everything. Therapy? Sure. But for you. Not for him. You deserve more. You know that, right? Some comments stung. Some comforted. Some made me cry. But the loudest voice in that thread was the one I had silenced for so long. Mine. And somewhere between scrolling and crying and rereading what I'd written, I stopped feeling crazy. I stopped doubting myself. I stopped wondering if I was overreacting. I wasn't. This wasn't just about betrayal. It wasn't just about him. It was about me. Who I had become while loving someone who lied. Who I could be now without him. And then, hours later, deep into the thread, almost buried, a comment made my blood run cold. Wait. Is this the same David, work, that used to date your cousin? I remember her venting on Facebook about a man like this a few months ago. I stared at the name. My cousin. I hadn't even thought about her. We weren't close. Not anymore. But we used to be. And suddenly, I remembered her birthday dinner, the one I skipped because I was too tired. He went instead. Said it was polite to show face. My hand shook as I scrolled her page. Old posts. Cryptic messages. A picture I didn't want to believe him, blurry in the background of one of her group shots, sitting too close. I closed the laptop. Everything inside me went still. Not just a stranger. Not just another woman. Family. He didn't just cheat on me. He chose to do it with someone who once braided my hair when we were girls. I stood up. Looked around this house. Our house. No. My house. And for the first time in weeks, maybe even years, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The end, or the beginning.